What's up, everyone? Welcome to Please Pause StarCraft 2. This is a big week. Blizzard has released an updated WCS portal website. The new site includes scheduling details for the events, player rankings, and a bit of info about some of the stars of WCS. Go check it out and give Blizzard your feedback, because I'm sure they want your feedback. In my opinion, the site is cool. There's some info about professional StarCraft and the game of StarCraft and how to watch StarCraft, and that's awesome. That should have been there from day one, I guess. But there's still some room to improve, a lot of room to improve in my opinion. I think that their player info sections are horrendously underfilled right now. It wouldn't be super hard to fill out some player bios. It wouldn't be too difficult to have some stats from a Ligulac on there. That would be the dream. And it wouldn't be hard to complete that dream. So Blizzard, come on, please, 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 guys, please. GosuGamers released a piece talking about the fact that the World Series of Video Games Tournament, WSVG, which took place originally in 2015, still owes a ton of money to a ton of people. The piece includes testimony from Ismail Adnan, an investor and one of the brains behind the WSVG tournament. In the article, he claims that Louis Prata, the Brazilian main actor behind WSVG, consistently lied and mismanaged the project until his eventual disappearance, taking the money with him. Prada responded to GosuGamers today, February 23rd, with a letter in which he placed the blame for the situation on Adnan. He claims to have lost money overall with these ventures. GosuGamers says that they will investigate further. This article is just top-tier investigative reporting in the esports field. Nidra wrote it. He's a cool guy. I've talked to him a little bit in the past, have some brief dealings. This is great stuff. All the links, all the information. It's a long piece. I think it's well worth reading, though, because it's really top-tier journalism work. If you have already read the piece, I do recommend going back and seeing Prada's statement, because he has a lot to say, and it's, of course, interesting. There are references made to ESGN and the fallout from that situation, which kind of just jogged my memory that ESGN existed at all. That tournament, that studio was really nice. It sucks that the company behind them was shit. Of course, looking at WSVG, I remember when this was announced, and I remember so many people sitting back and saying, oh, well, that does not look legitimate. There were quite a few scams going on in the StarCraft 2 scene in 2015, if I remember correctly. Wasn't Love Your Girlfriend in 2015? What was that team that MC joined as well? That was a complete farce. Of course, that said, there's no excuse for this kind of BS-ery in esports. It sucks that this still happens. It sucks that this event is ongoing. It sucks that people are unpaid. According to the article, it wasn't just an issue of somebody running away with the initial money that was granted by G2A to put off the tournament. In fact, Adnan claims that Prada had the money that was promised by G2A to put off the tournament and then solicited more money from more investors in the area of Maldives. If that's true, that's next level scam stuff. According to Prada's LinkedIn, he relinquished control, or he left WSVG in May of 2016, which is actually fairly recent. According to that LinkedIn profile, it's a Baltimore-based company. There does seem to be potential for legal action here. There's some talk of it in this article. Whether or not it pans out, who knows. Hopefully the players involved will get their money, but God, it does seem pretty unlikely with so much he said, she said, and unknown factors at this point. It sucks in particular for Maldives, doesn't it? That's just, they don't, it sucks. Their government was involved, local business people were involved. That sucks. Controversy abounds this week as Polygon Gaming comes into conflict with Rifkin, Wardy, and Fear Dragon. Led and owned by Malcolm Shaft Heath, Polygon used clips from the other content creators to promote their Polygon Invitational Showmatch series. The issue came to light after some Twitter conversation from these content creators voicing their opposition to their clips being used by Polygon and raising the fact that they hadn't consented to such a thing. Heath responded by telling them that it was entirely legal under fair use and that we live in a, quote, remix culture, end quote. So what he had done was fair game. The controversy prompted Solar and Alive to pull out of their show match and eventually led to 2 videos from Shaft in which he defended his actions and voiced his remorse at the events. For the record, I'd like to say that I have not been personally grieved by this situation. I didn't have any of my content used by Polygon without my permission. And the reason why I say that is because for some reason Shaft keeps raising my name. I was mentioned in the Reddit thread title, I was mentioned in comments in the Reddit thread, I was mentioned in both of the videos. I don't know, I have no idea. I was signal boosting about this on Twitter, but a lot of StarCraft people were, so I really have no idea why I'm named in particular at any point, let alone so often. Okay, so that was like the facts of the matter. I'm gonna give my opinion now, and it's gonna be lengthy. So if you want to skip that, that's fine. I'm just letting you know. Wardy and Rifkin commented on the Reddit thread for the first video that Shaft posted. They are left very unsatisfied, it would seem. Wardy says it seems like more of an apology to Reddit than it is to the actual people who were wronged. They say that Shaft is continuing to lie, and they source the things that they have a problem with in their Reddit comments. Shaft claims that he left the watermarks in and that he left all of the advertisement in for base trade and Wardy alike. It's true that those are seen in the video in question, but it's not so much a purposeful, I'm going to leave these in for the betterment of these particular content creators. It's much more a fact that those are on the friggin' screen that he screen capped, that he used. Rather than specifically editing them out, they were just left in. So I'm not really buying the idea that there's advertising happening or anything like that. Of course, there was no specific reference to where the clips came from, not in the actual video itself, not in the description below the video. There are screen caps too, so, don't just take my word for it. Even if that was the case, even then, that still doesn't mean that you get to use content from somebody else without their permission. I've seen some people say that Polygon does a lot of good stuff for StarCraft 2 and that one issue like this should not sink that ship. I've also seen Shaft say himself in his video that his behavior, his actions don't represent Polygon on whole. Well, first things first, your actions, Shaft, don't represent the people who might be on screen at any given time. Your tweets don't represent Seeker or Marsh or anybody else necessarily, but your actions as owner and chief driver of Polygon SC2 absolutely represents your brand. Secondly, it's not just one single issue here. It's kind of a recurring thing, it would seem, with Shaft. His actions have been very controversial in the past as well. Polygon uses hashtag SC2Lives very frequently. This is at like the depth of the controversy scale. A lot of people don't like that. I'm one of those people. I think it's silly. I think it's very self-conscious. Maybe you can argue the other way. I don't see how you can logically argue the other way, but okay, that's kind of whatever. But that is something that people don't like. There are also accusations of racism towards Shaft. In this particular controversy, one of the things that was discussed was his use of the term spear chucker. Now, first things first, if you aren't aware that that's a racist term, okay, that's fine. Ignorance, is one thing, if you legitimately don't know. But if you know that that turn of phrase exists, I don't know how you can go through life not realizing that it's racist. Just Google search it. I mean, it's very, very evident that the consensus is it's just strictly a racist term. Also, Shaft's defense of his use of that term wasn't lying in the fact that he didn't know any better or something. It was talking about how it's an apt analogy for the low-tech play style of one player facing the high-tech style of another player. It's really weird. The intent there is questionable. The rationale there is very questionable. Just don't die on that hill, man. Like, that's not a fight worth having. That's not an argument worth having. It's just not a term that you should use ever. Some also accuse Polygon of racist imagery when their clip interview cut-up featuring Gumiho that was done by Toast from Dank Shrine as a freelance thing, they put a gif of Kim Jong-un killing Koreans. It was like a cartoon image. Cartoon Kim Jong-un was riding a cartoon nuclear warhead with a cartoon AK, killing cartoon North Korean citizens and being lewd towards cartoon North Korean women. It was super poor taste. And the defense there was that, the people involved were fine with it apparently, or something to that effect. But like it's a recurring thing. If you're going to go on that super edgy, super chancy, dark, non-PC humor, don't be surprised when there's backlash. Don't be surprised when there's people, coming up against that, because of course there will be. In general, when you're representing your brand, maybe don't do that at all. Going back even further, in August of 2016, Shaft posted a thread to Reddit talking about how it was his birthday and he was going to cast Dust League that night, and the Dust owners had lied to him because they were no longer allowing him to cast the League. This thread has since been deleted. Shaft kind of came up against a wall with that one. There wasn't a whole lot of support from Reddit. A lot of people commented saying, just because it's your birthday doesn't mean you're entitled to something. We only see one side of the story here. The thread included links to an Imgur album where there were screenshots from Skype, screenshots of a conversation between Shaft and the Dust Gaming owner in question, where the Dust Gaming owner says, I really don't like you. We've had conflict in the past. I don't want you casting this league. I don't want you appearing on our Twitch channel, on one of our members' Twitch channel, nothing like that. No, you don't get to cast this, despite what you may have been told by somebody else. Shaft kind of rallies against that. He says the reasons why you don't like me are silly. It wasn't my fault. There's an entire conversation in that Imgur album. He says, put personal interests aside. This is business stuff. I canceled plans to do this, etc., so on and so forth. There's a lot of back and forth. He said, she said. It's very unclear, the issue. Having said that, I know that the owner in question of Dust Gaming is going to appear on Toast Talks later tonight, I believe, so definitely check that out, and maybe he'll give his side of the story. I'm not going to post the Reddit thread because it was deleted, and I respect that. And it could very well be that, Shaft backed down, maybe on Twitter or something. There was a statement saying, oh, yeah, I messed up. But it does tie into the idea that this is a controversial guy. The last controversial point that I'm going to raise is Shaft's personal Twitter is highly controversial at points. He likes conspiracy theories. He likes using the hashtag 9/11 investigate 9/11. There are some conspiratorial pictures that he's posted implying that ISIS execution videos are perpetrated by government officials in a studio or something like that. It's kind of unclear to me, I'm not going to lie. When you're representing a brand, which you are when you own a brand, when you own a brand, you represent a brand. When you do things like that, when you post very controversial viewpoints, when you post very controversial ideas publicly, you are affecting your brand. You are. It's just a fact of life. There's no way to separate those two things. Of course you are. Of course, this brings me to the next point, that Shaft says he did reach out to the people in question, but they didn't get back to him, so what could he do? The way Shaft seems to reach out to people is to tweet at them or direct message them if they have open DMs on Twitter and say, hey, here's my Skype. I'd like to talk to you. Something to that effect generally. You can't do that and then blame the person in question for not reaching out to you, for not getting in touch with you. It's not really on them to use your preferred platform of communication. Let me tell you guys what seems to work for me, and I'm open to suggestions on this as well. First off, go to their website, go to their social media pages, see if there's a business email address listed. If there is, use your business email address, contact them saying, hey, this is who I am, this is where you can find my work for reference. If you are interested in this idea that I'm pitching, I'd be thrilled to hear from you. If there's no such email listed, then feel free to tweet at them, or if they have open DMs on Twitter, message them through Twitter saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you. Is there a business email where I can reach you? Do you want to swap Skype? Do you want to talk on Twitter? Something like that. If they have a preferred path of communication, then do that one. Shaft says in his videos that he never ever wants to message somebody twice. He says that it feels like begging. Okay, fair enough. I can see that. I'm a pretty self-conscious person when it comes to that kind of thing too. I understand where you're coming from. But if somebody doesn't get back to you, that does not raise the flag and say you're good to go on whatever it is that you wanted to do anyway. That's not an excuse. If somebody doesn't get back to you, assume they're not okay with it. Why would you assume they are okay with whatever it is you were trying to do and then potentially create all this controversy and negative attention? This isn't the first time Shaft has been the subject of controversy. This isn't the first time Shaft has done something controversial. It's disappointing. It sucks. I don't really think the videos that he posted were satisfactory, honestly. That's just my opinion. Thus ends my opinion piece on the Polygon news story. In roster changes this week, there is only one. Volt stepped down from Team Revolution, trying to find a better balance between personal life and StarCraft. It's tough, you know, especially when you're a student. Finding time to put into everything that you want to do is really, really hard. It's nigh on impossible, so I can't blame Volt at all. I hope he can do well with everything that he's doing. You know, good job out there. You know, keep your stick on the ice, right? I'm also going to mention this here in this section because there are so few roster changes this week, but VSL announced Season 2 for StarCraft 2. That's going to be pretty hype. That tournament was pretty cool, actually, last time it was put off. So it's super cool that VSL is continuing work in StarCraft and continuing to put out some Korean StarCraft 2 content for us. Major props. Thank you, VSL. That's it for this week, guys. I know it was a long one. That one issue was a bit of a doozy. There's lots of stuff going on this week, and last week there was very little. So keep your eyes on Twitter. I am fully ready to renege on my statement that I made in Cyan's Corner, talking about how there's so much content in StarCraft 2 that you could definitely do a weekly news show topic. Next week, I might try focusing a lot more on Overwatch. If there's not a lot of news in StarCraft 2, tune in, pay attention to me on Twitter, you know, follow me on Twitter, follow me here on YouTube. Comment down below, tell me what you think about the issues that went on this week. I'll see you guys real soon.